Hi, everyone. I hope you're, hi. I hope everyone is on and they can hear me okay. Somebody want to say something? Hey, hi, Michael. Okay, so it's working, I guess. Everybody's here. I hope, gosh, what day is it? I hope your Tuesday is off to a really good start. And thank you for tuning in. I'm really excited to do this video, particularly because it kind of answers a question that I get a lot. First things first, hello, you look amazing. Be you, I love you, by the way. I dyed my hair black by accident. So thank you. And so my friends all know that I was like, anyone else dye their hair black in quarantine by accident? Really didn't mean to, but you just got to go with the flow, right? So on that subject, my name is Laurie Burke, which I know you already have from tuning in and from Backstage. And I'm a voiceover artist, obviously, and also an on-screen actress and singer and blah, 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 blah. You could look all that up later or look below. I think Katie put all that stuff on there to see, what qualifies me to talk, I guess, to you about all this stuff. But the reason why I was really excited, especially excited to do this video, is because I get a lot like, oh, I wondered if you think I have a good voice, right? These are people that come to me for coaching. I wonder if I have a good voice. Can you tell me if I have a good voice? I really want to look at this in a more spiritual kind of way, in a bigger way. We all have good voices. I've said this before, but there's different voices for different things, and also different voices evoke different emotions. This is what makes voiceover, and a real voice acting sort of exercise, a real sort of cathartic thing. And that's what makes voiceover good, right? I mean, that's what, if it can evoke an emotion or something without any sort of visual, that's the beauty of voiceover. So, and all of us have voices in so many different ranges. I have been lucky enough to do, I was going through and preparing for all this, a lot of the different ways. I'm going to go over 10. I'm going to go over 10 ways, 10 different avenues of voiceover today. But really, it can lend itself into whatever way that we want it to. I look at it, again, I'm going to get a little bit spiritual on here. I look at it like the voice is, it's kind of like, this is your tree, right? Grounded. I know meditators out there. I'm sure there's people that meditate, right? That are out there. And they say a lot of grounding and things like that. Okay, so this is your tree. There's a lot of branches that come off from your tree, right? So your voice comes up from here, and there's a lot of different avenues that it can take. And sometimes those avenues cross. Sometimes this leads to here, this leads to there. And so I don't want anyone to think that they don't have a good voice. It's really not about your voice. It's really what you bring to that and how you express yourself in that way. And hopefully, and most importantly, have fun, and make this enjoyable. Otherwise, please don't do this for a living because there's a lot of work that goes into it. And if you're passionate about it, like I am, you want to be good, and you want to be, produce the best sounds and the best emotion and the best voice acting or that you can do, and bring joy, and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, so I'll tell you a little bit about my path to tell you how these can kind of work into themselves. Okay. So when I started, we didn't have as many big spotlights on voiceover, let's say, when I started, 15, 20 years ago. But I started, I studied with a coach. Very important. If you guys have watched my other videos, if you haven't, I have some on my YouTube channel. Go to my YouTube channel. Please tell me what you want to see, and I'll elaborate on things. I only have a limited time here for Backstage, which I love, by the way. But go there, and maybe there'll be a video. I know I did one on microphones. I did some other ones on, your home studio, things like that. And also you can look at the different voiceovers that I've done, in my voiceover playlist. And it kind of has a lot of different avenues that you can take, right? So I looked at that and I thought, first of all, I feel like I'm 175 years old. In a good way, I guess. But secondly, how grateful I am that I've gotten to do all of these things that I'm going to be talking about today, right? Not just one niche. Some people say, stay in one lane and focus on that. I think that if you love that lane and you love that direction, yes, stay on that and put everything into it. However, I think as a voice artist, which is what I think is a better term, you can do a lot of different things, and I'll be going over a lot of them. So I studied, I made a demo. My first was doing a promo, they call it, and that was for LA 36. That was a TV station out here. I think it's still out here. Then I became the voice of Google Voice, right? So that was more the IR system, welcome to Google Voice. You have 2 messages, things like that, right? So I went from there onto commercials, for anything from like, LinkedIn to clothing to you name it, commercials, TV commercials, radio commercials. I went to corporate videos, which is more like, talking about training and things. I'll go over these again. And then that led me into even more like award shows, Emmy Awards, Common Sense Media, different videos for it. You could do it live or not. Animation, which you could go into film. I've done film and TV and, and also animation in commercials and movies. And I'll talk about that journey too, how that can all go in there if you're an actor and you kind of like that little follow that wave. I went into tech explainer videos, a lot of tech. I'm from San Francisco, so it's all tech. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Most of the time, there are 15 syllables, words, but that is part of the craft is, speaking like you do know what you're talking about. And then you could also do things like, trailers. And then I do a lot of singing parody ones, which are, I'll get into that too. There's health, there's meditations. I've done meditation apps. There's ASMR. That's a whole other thing. Zumba, fitness stuff. So I have been very fortunate. That's why I'm telling you that. And then the most recent one was on Jexy, which is a feature film that I worked on with Adam Devine. So anyway, talk about that later. I just want you to know that was my career, and I didn't even know that that's where I was going to go. I was kind of doing it all at the same time, and I was doing on air, and I was doing singing. So you can do it. You could do it all. Don't think that you just have to put yourself in one little category. That being said, again, if you like one category and you're studying with a great coach, they will direct you in that way. Also, again, I always stress that. Please study with somebody, right? They should hopefully tell you what your strengths are, what they hear you as being, I was in casting too, as being what you should be casted for and maybe what your voice lends itself to. Again, go with things that you're interested in though. Okay. All right. So sorry. Enough about me, enough about all that stuff. Let's go over. So the first one obviously is commercial, right? That's the first one. That's automatically the thing that you need, the demo that you need. If you're going to get into that, we always say, make your commercial demo first, because that kind of covers everything, and you've got a solid ground. Again, make that, I still always say, study with somebody and make it done professionally for your demo so that people really get a great sense of who you are and the voices you can do, and that you have really, even more so, that you studied so that when you go in and you get hired for these jobs, you could deliver 100% each voice that you have. And I will get through all the questions after. So just so you know, sorry, I'm not ignoring, I'm going to read through all of them. So anyway, so that's that. So commercial would be, like Safeway, Rayleigh's, LinkedIn, different commercial things, right? Okay. Then there's animation, which, Linda Lamontagne, hello. She was just on Backstage right before me. Amazing casting director, American Dad, Family Guy. I mean, you name it. She is just amazing. And so anyway, if you can go back on Backstage when they post it and watch her Q&A, it was fabulous. I watched it while I was getting ready and preparing for this. So she can tell you a lot about the animation thing. Now she's in casting. So she says how the auditions come in and things like that. So if that's your interest, please go back. She's just amazing. Okay. So you know what animation is. Animation can also be used in commercials and things like that, just so you know. And I look at animation as being a very big extension into acting or of acting, right? And we can delve into that. I think that'll be another video. But then, of course, there's video games, which has just exploded, right, over the years, let's say the last 10 years, right? And you all know what that is. And that's also sort of more of an acting avenue of that. Actually, it's very much an acting avenue of that. So that's another one. Okay, then there's IVR systems, which is what I did, interactive voice response. That's, Google Voice. Now it paired with AI, which is artificial intelligence, as you know. They're not the same, but those systems kind of interplay together. And so there's voice prompts. There's companies that need that, right? You're representing their company on their outgoing message. I've done a million of these, or the presentation of their company, right? Where it used to be where you would walk into an office, and the first representation would be that receptionist. Now it's a voice. So I think it's very, very important, and I've worked with a lot of Silicon Valley companies on that too. It's incredibly important that they have someone that really represents their brand and what they're trying to express. Um, corporate education, e-learning, right? Those are things like Click to Science. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that do a lot of dental. Gosh, I've done so many dental and eye things, right? Again, no idea what I'm talking about. Those are things that may explain how to use their products. They're probably, a longer format, right? It's not just a short commercial, it's like a longer format. There is training and also explainer videos, which they call, which is very big in also Silicon Valley and San Francisco, which basically talks about the product that this company is providing and how to use it. And they're kind of explaining it. It's basically a very good term about that. Okay, so then there's of course announcing. Announcing would be, it could be in subways, it could be live, or it could be recorded. It could be in ballparks. It could be, Mind the App. Mind the App. That's great. If somebody didn't make that already, you should make that. Mind the Gap. For example, and I think I told this story before, but since my friend Carrie is probably watching right now, Carrie, hi. I will say this again. She called me and she said, "Listen, we have this great movie that's going to be introduced in New York. It was in Tribeca. This is 15 years ago, 10 years ago. We need an introduction for Robert De Niro. We need it recorded and we need to introduce him. We have nobody here. They had no moderator there or anybody do that. Can you do that?" This was like the night before. I said, "Yeah." So I did, 4. I think I did 4. She would remember this. Different takes. And, the beginning was, "Ladies and gentlemen, Robert De Niro." And by the end of it, it was, "Ladies and gentlemen, Robert De Niro," like a ballpark. So that's always really fun. The announcer thing can be really fun if you like that. And again, that also lends itself if you are also an on-camera host to do that live, right? So then there's narration. Narration, documentaries, storytelling, Netflix. If you've watched like Wives with Knives, which I have been a wife with a knife in that series, not in real life. They talk about either recreation or they talk about, a docuseries on Netflix or whatever, and they need a narrator for that, right? So that's another kind of vocal skill. It's a storytelling, but also it's kind of a different sort of way to tell the story as opposed to like an audiobook, which we'll get to next. Audiobooks. People ask me a lot about audiobooks. Audiobooks are so big. It started, I don't think people realize it started in the 1930s. And that was for reading for the blind. And that was on vinyl records, actually, those 33 and a third that are so big again now. And then it kind of evolved, right? It got approved, it got evolved, and they were telling stories for the blind on these LPs to go into, 60s, 70s, into cassettes, and then the 80s with CDs. And then, the 90s and got into Audible and what we have now, which is just huge. So audiobooks are another sort of completely different avenue also. Lots of time in the studio with audiobooks, lots of time. Some people love that, some people don't. So that's something to think about if you want to explore that more. There is looping and ADR. Looping and ADR. Okay, so you probably know what that is. You see something on a screen and then you have to, and dubbing, lend your voice to it. There's things called a loop group, which I'm in for NCIS, right? So I go down to the studio, there's about 8 of us, and we do all the background also, right? This is another avenue of, so in other words, they have the main actors, but they don't have the people in the background talking, or maybe this guy that came up that they didn't quite get the sound right for, or whatever it is. And I do that. Right. And that's really fun. And that is definitely a specific skill and definitely something that takes dedication and work on it if you go into that, as well as ADR and looping. That is really something that is, if you want to go down that whole thing of making that your career, it takes a lot. So going back, one more that I have loved is that I don't think anyone talks about is I do a lot of, I'm a singer too. Do we have singers on here? We got a lot of singers on here. I'm sure we do. It's Backstage. So there's a lot of extremely talented people on this site that have been writing me after this, after my videos. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So I have been hired to do a lot of, and also it's comedy, right? So I'm an actor too. So to do, and I'm sure you are too, because you're watching this and you're on Backstage. Um, I've been hired to do these parodies of things. So example, I would take, I did a thing for ergonomics. It was for a company for ergonomics, and it was set to the story Taylor Swift's "Shake It Off." So I took in the audio and or I created it actually, the audio of that song to duplicate it, and then I put in the words that we wanted to do, singing, obviously not singing "Shake It Off," but stand up straight or whatever it was. It's on my YouTube channel. I don't know what I said, but and then I sing and record that, and I actually produce a full on recording for that. I did one on lice for Justin Bieber, Bieber's song, and that was kind of funny. It wasn't for Justin Bieber; it was for his song, but it was, instead of "Love Yourself," it was talking about lice. I've done some things like, there's one I think I just posted on my Instagram that was a lot of this singing, because I absolutely love it. So for you singers out there, start thinking about that. That's like a whole different kind of genre that a lot of voiceover artists don't talk about, because it just has so many different aspects to it. But for example, I did one for, it was to MC Hammer's "You Can't Touch This," but it was talking about Valentine's Day. So, which I think is hilarious and really fun. So anyway, the whole reason why I'm telling you all this is, look at all those different branches of voiceover, right? That you can go into. And I don't think that you particularly know right off the bat exactly what you love, but if you want to be a working voiceover artist, the more things you could develop, the better. Again, if you only want to do audiobooks, that's great. That makes my job easier as a coach, right? Because I know exactly what we're going to concentrate on, or just commercial. But I think most of us want to work, right? Most of us want to work, and we want to work in the best creative outlet that we can, that brings joy and fun, because that comes through in your voice too, right? The more fun you have in it. So, don't do audiobooks if you don't want to sit in a booth for a very, very long time, right? And you don't like being, on this long format sort of thing. Don't do announcer ones if you don't like that kind of live energy that you have to have. Don't do. I mean, you can do these, but I'm just saying, don't go after the corporate videos if you're not interested in talking about things. I love all of this, by the way. I'm just nerding out about all of it, and I can't believe I've gotten to do so much. But they can all come around in this circle. I mean, I started with Google Voice, right? As an IVR, almost like it was like before Alexa and Siri. And then this last thing I did, I was hired, for Jexy, the movie. And I was actually on set before Rose Byrne dubbed it in. So she was the opposite star. She was the one that was, came out at the end, that they used her voice. She dubbed it in all after we filmed it. We filmed it for 2 months on set. This is for the guys that made the Bad Moms and the Hangover movies, and they're amazing. Sean and Scott. Hi. And I got to do this crazy phone that, voice that was just, swore a lot and was comedic, and got to improv and do all this stuff. And I know it was because, a lot of it was because I did this IVR system, Google Voice, because they said, yeah, we want that person. If she can do some crazy stuff with that, but still maintain that voice, we want her. So it's really important that you work with somebody and ask them, where do you see me going in this? What do you think my strengths are? And ask yourself, now, how can you do it? How can you do it yourself? Start listening to these things more. I know that seems really obvious, but start listening. I mean, I think, things like animation and commercial and the voices are such a wide spectrum. Nobody has a bad voice. I really want you to have fun with this. There's competition, but I hate it when people say that. Somebody's doing it. Might as well be me. Might as well be you. And somebody's not doing it exactly the way you are. So use that, use your own energy and your own training and your own vocal ability. and just go for it, and give it a try. So, and lastly, I want to say too, that was 10, but um, really you can create your own content at the end when all is said and done as well. Podcasting is great, right? You could have your own show. So the key is to develop your voice to where you're comfortable using it and finding different ways of really, hitting the other person and expressing yourself, and making that unique to you and your expression, and following direction, of course, but really that's what it's all about. So yeah, so I hope I just talked a lot. So let's take some questions. I love documentaries. Is that market pretty much sewn up? No, Annie Scott Rogers, it is not completely sewn up. None of these things are. People think. I had another student that said, did I miss the boat already? Because quarantine now has brought so much voiceover, but now everybody is no, and voiceover is not going anywhere soon. It's just not. We all kind of, at least I know I read a lot about, people are making the voices, they could take one word and then expand on that to other voices and things. Don't worry about that. What is that expression? Don't look in the rearview mirror. Just look forward. You're going to get in an accident when you look in the rearview mirror. Look in front of you and just keep going and do what you love. So there's never a wrong time. I do think now we're really hitting on it. It's just going to expand more and more. And I think there's going to be a divide between people that are really, really good and know their voices and can deliver like that, and people that just say, oh, I've got a mic and I'm just going to do this. And they don't know really, like, to at least go into a quiet space, and they don't know how to take direction, or, to try different things and to expand. I know in animation, Linda Lamontagne again just said, you may have a read that nobody even thought of, express that, if you want to do that in a different accent, or you want to do it if they're not specific to that accent. So I hope that helps. Okay. How do you recommend starting the search for a VO coach? How much should I expect to spend? Angel, good question. I am a coach. You're welcome to come to me, which is laurieburke.com. It should be in everything underneath. I'm sure Katie has that under there. But definitely there's ones online. There's some things, maybe I'll do a video on that and how to pick a good coach. Do one that has the same like-minded energy as you and the same philosophy. And I would pick one that's actually working as well, or at least has been, so they keep up on the trends of what is going on. And also one that can maybe help you produce your demo, or at least, have affiliations with studios. To spend. Private coaching, is not cheap. I have a deal going on coaching right now, because of COVID, and I'm also giving a percentage back to Meals on Wheels because that's important to me. But I'm sure a lot of people are. I think it's an investment that is so worth it. It's what I did. That's how I started. I studied with somebody, which was, probably even more than what I charge, and paid for that. And then for a one-on-one, there are also many schools out there. You could look into that. Ask them, how long it would take, and ask, what realistically. We don't know until we're working with you really how long it's going to take, but we can ask a lot of questions to see what kind of experience you have already and listen to your voice. Ones that will provide scripts for you, that will go over with you, that will really take an interest, that maybe you can ask them also with career advice. I know if anybody asks me, if any of my students say, well, this hour I want to talk about setting up my studio. Great. Show me your studio. Let's FaceTime and do that. We Zoom or whatever, or where do you think I should go for casting? Or where do you think I should go for this? That's what I'm here for. I hope to help people find somebody that you connect with and that has done things that you want to do. Okay. I hope that answers it. Please feel free to write me again, laurieburke.com. Forgot my own name. And go to my YouTube channel, which is also youtube.com, Laurie Burke, and subscribe. Please subscribe. I'm going to start making more videos, addressing different questions that you have, and hopefully helping and providing more information there. Okay. All right. So what should be on a demo reel? I do have other videos on that, but the demo reel, a lot of times you have just a commercial demo reel for about a minute and a half. It would be the longest. Usually you can make one commercial. I made a commercial Narration, which at the time was more, it was called narration, but it was promo. Things changed. The vernacular changes over the years. That was for a minute. And then I did an animation for a minute as well. And I invested in that, which I strongly suggest too, because then you have something that you'll have for a very long time. And then you have a calling card, like your headshot and resume or anything like that, but really I think your voiceover demo you keep even longer, and then you could just update as you go. How you divide your reels into different categories without making too many reels. And should you have a separate reel for singing and accents? Yes, I would divide them into different reels, but people have different schools on this. But usually you say, let me send you, because if you meet somebody, let's say a casting director or somebody that's casting something, and they say, oh, I'm casting for this docu-series. They don't necessarily want to hear all your commercials. They want to hear things that are in that format. They want to hear narration. They want to hear things like that. Also, as you build up your things that you've done over the years, you can just send them, hey, here's a spot. Here's a link to my spot. Here's a link to this commercial that I did. And that goes for on air too, as you guys know, the actors that are on air, as well. Like, oh, is it, I just did a thing. I work in casting as well. So I'm helping cast a thing right now. And I said, is what you're looking for something like this? And I sent them, one of mine that I did that was this different kind of style voice. And they said, yeah, that's it. So then I was able to articulate to other people, hey, this is what we're looking for. Can you submit, a demo like this? So, yeah, I hope that answers the question. I think it did. You can do jobs from where you're at. Yeah, of course, you can do jobs from anywhere. It's not just New York and LA. You can always fly out to LA is expensive too. Yeah, you could, again, I have a whole other thing on that because I've done so many voiceovers traveling, from Hawaii to Europe to wherever. If you learn the system of what you need and the concept of it, the concept of having a quiet studio. I did another video on setting up your own studio. That's on my YouTube channel, I believe. Also, Backstage has a lot of videos on about this that I've also done. And once you get the concept, you can do it pretty much anywhere, right? It has to do with the space. You could go to your car, you could go to a closet, whatever. But it is something to learn. So that's what's so great about voiceover. And right now, again, I go into this in a different video, but you could do things through Source Connect, which I have if you're a working voiceover actor, and it goes directly to a studio, and then they can listen in and do things for it. But you could also just send things directly. It's more important that you have the training and the studio and the mic. Okay, I really want to do voice characters in video games. Do you have any mentoring on this? Yeah, I mean, voice characters in video games would all, in my opinion, would still be it's more towards the animation. It's more towards that voice acting. I still think you should do a commercial demo to start out with, or study that to begin with. And then you because they all kind of morph together into different characters. So, but then you know who to contact for when you do have those demos ready, especially your animation demo, who to contact, the casting directors that do that, or the video games. That's very much more actor specific. How would one get started with no experience in voice acting? Well, Izzy, you're doing it right now. You're watching videos, which is great. You're going to Backstage, which I love. Backstage has so much great people on here. I mean, I watch it. I've been watching these. Heidi Dean, I don't know if you're on here, but she's great. She's on social media. She was fabulous. I wrote her afterwards. I was like, you are awesome. That's on Backstage. Check out her videos. There's so much information out there. Sometimes it can become overwhelming. So I love that at Backstage, I get all these different things. I'm not getting paid to say that, by the way. I just really like Backstage. So, if you're just starting out, I would say start looking for a coach. Really don't waste your time doing all that. I mean, it's great to learn online and watch things like this to get the general idea. And then if you go, yeah, that seems like something I'm really interested in, either take an intro course, which of course we're not doing in live anymore, but or meet with somebody and schedule one thing and see if this is something I want to study, and because you don't really know until you get into it if this is really something that you love to do. Okay. So, and yes, I've always said this. Everybody says, well, I've been told I have a good voice and I want to work in my pajamas. Yes, I work in my pajamas sometimes, and I have no shoes on right now. But that's not really what it's about. It's so much more than that. It's really about bringing something to life with your voice. So, Bax, thank you. You're so sweet. Okay, so as an older actor returning to performing after 30 plus years with no voiceover experience, is my college radio announcing from years ago an attractive trait to get hired? What's attractive is that you have that experience. I would probably redo those, right? So if you're studying with somebody or you're working with somebody, if you wanted to get into other facets of voiceover, if you want to just concentrate, sorry, Edward, that was for you. If you want to just concentrate on radio announcing, I mean, you kind of already have your answer, right? Then you could just gear everything to working with those different stations. If you still want to do announcing, if you want to get into these other things, that's very attractive that you have that. There are some things that I find challenging when people like me that were broadcasting, right? That's my major, was broadcast communications, radio, television, and being on-air host, that we have to get over when we get into voiceover. There's this presentation style, and then there's really the character, and that's where the acting comes in. So a lot of times we have to get over that presentation style that we're used to and that we were taught to really make it really good and juicy. And so if you have interest in that, as I've said at the beginning of this video, I've been lucky enough to go into all of these things. So you can do it. You just have to work at it. You really have to work at it. It kind of humbles you a little bit if you were in broadcasting to go into that. But if you're an actor too, you really have a leg up. If you record from home, how do you know that the take is the one besides being a clean take? Oh my gosh, that was a good question, Sarah. Great question. I just went over this with one of my students. You really have to learn to listen to your voice. That is part of the training. You have to be your own director, right? Once you get hired, and we all know this from being in, let's say you're on a movie, or you're, you're in a series or whatever. If the director it tells you what to do, which is great, you love being directed. You're like, yeah, I got it. In voiceover, you still have that direction once you get hired. But as far as for the audition or for anything else you're producing, you have to be really, really critical in that and know your voice. And after you train a little bit, yeah, that's good. And at that point, if any of my actors on here know, going into an audition, for so many years as I have as well, you hopefully auditioning is your job. That's the fun part, right? I get to play this today. I get to play that today, whatever it is. If you get it, that's the bonus. That's my mindset. I forget about it when I leave. I may want that part, but I feel really good about that performance. It's the same thing with voiceover, right? You produce it. If you love doing voiceover, you do it, and you just go, that was really fun. I got to inhabit that character and send that. And if you get it, awesome. So that's it. Do I have any good online voiceover courses? Actually, thank you, Touche. I am actually developing one right now. So besides this, I have some other ones, and that'll be probably on my YouTube page, and all my social media should be down there too. Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Hit me up. I'll be coming out with that next. So it is a business that I realized, going on, that I love it so much, and I want people to really have. It's a responsibility I feel for myself, being lucky enough to have done this for so long, and grateful for so many different things that I've been able to do. I feel responsible to really give people information that I hope is not only helpful but true, and not to go out and spend a lot of money needlessly, right at the beginning because they want to get in it and somebody promises them this, or this school that you're going to be studying at for 5 years, before you even make a demo, or I'm really, that's my, I want to inspire people to do this if they love to do this, and to do this and start where you're at. And so I'm formulating that. I'm making that now. So hopefully you'll go to my website, soon, laurieburke.com, and go there. So yeah, I keep mentioning all that, but it's really, I really hope that we become this more helping each other community, and really, I'm just passionate. I love what I do. I love being a voice artist, and I love being an actress, and I love singing. And if you could do all this together, which I know all of you, there's a lot of you that do all of the things that I do, why not? So that's it. Let's see. Thank you, Laurie. Oh, well, thank you. Okay, that makes sense. I do love voiceover auditions. Oh, good, Sarah. That's awesome. My teacher suggested improv classes, especially. Neil, I think improv classes are great for everything, but especially for acting. Voiceover is. I did do a lot of improv on the movie I was hired for, but again, that was voice acting, and that was they asked me to, right? And it was comedic, and that was great that I already studied improv. However, most times for voiceover, you get the script, and improv is great for all. I love improv anyway, just to do it, and I'm sure it'll help you become a better actor and a better voiceover, artist in general. All these things help you. Nothing is wasted, but specifically for voiceover, I think we usually, if you're going into commercial or narration, it's very scripted. Not only is it very scripted, I always teach my students you have to obey the script, even if it's not the best written script, right? So, and there's a lot that maybe aren't as conversational, even though they want conversational. They're not as conversational as they probably should read. But you really have to obey their script, and then maybe you can make a suggestion or, ask, hey, I think there's a typo, or and I coach people on that, because it's a very tricky thing. It's just like being an actor and getting a script that you're like, oh my God, this isn't just flowing, right? How much easier is it to memorize great scripts that you're like, I love this part. This part is so great. And you memorize it like that. And then there's these other ones where you're like, what is this? So that's definitely something to be developed. So yeah, I hope that does that. Do I do coaching? Courtney, I do. I just said, go to laurieburke.com and you'll find all my stuff about coaching. And I will develop some things soon, some courses soon, but I do one-on-one coaching right now for sure. So look on that, and that'll be great. Let's see. What exercises or warm-ups do you do? I'm going to do another video on warm-ups because I get that question a lot. And I know in a couple other videos that I have on YouTube and maybe on Backstage as well, I talk about a few things. Right now, what I think is a fun thing to do right now, and particularly on the subject that I'm doing this video on, so I don't go way off on a tangent, because I could talk for hours, as you probably guessed, on this subject. I would start listening to different kinds of voiceovers, different kinds of voices. Start trying to maybe even try to emulate that. Try to. And I hate to use the word copy, but you're not going to sound just like them. So don't worry. And if you can, great. There's a whole market for that too. Impersonations. But start listening to the different kinds. I really like doing this. Just start experimenting. Start listening. Start experimenting, and kind of find and start journaling that. Start writing down what you really like, what kind of avenues you like, or that was great. That voiceover really touched me. I'd love to do that. I have this one voiceover I did for Common Sense Media. I used to be an on-air host for them, or I am, and a voiceover artist for them as well. And it was about movies. And I think I'm going to share that next. It's on my YouTube, but I love that particular video. And I would love to say it was me and my voice. I tried the best I can, but the way that they put it with the music and the things, and I'm so passionate about movies too. I was a movie review host. I love that. It gave me such a feeling. It makes you cry, and it's what they put into it too. So it's this beautiful marriage, right? That and that video just evokes so much. And so yeah, that's the kind of thing. If you look at something like that and you listen, you're like, that's what I want to do. That's how you know you're onto something. You're like, I really want to do that. I want to focus on that. And listen, after you do that, as you heard in the beginning of this video, it may go over to this. You may get a job offer in this. You may, so it's very fluid, right? The branches kind of go up and they kind of go together. I know I sound like such a San Francisco hippie, but I'm from San Francisco, but they really do. So it should be fun, and it should be expressive, and show who you are. And you should really want to do this. Okay. So link to the video, Courtney, hopefully Backstage will, or just go to my YouTube. It's on my voiceover playlist, I think. It is. It's called something about movies. It's for Common Sense Media. good movies or something, but just go to my YouTube or message me, go to laurieburke.com, whatever. There's a million ways to get a hold of me. Let's see, is finding a coach the best way to get into the fast lane? I'm doing that because it says fast lane, by the way. I'm not one of those. I'm 65 and newish to the field, have training and made my own demos, but need better demos and channels into getting cast. Yeah, I would. Personally, I would find a coach. You could even say, these are my demos. You know, if you're going to study with somebody, you can say, this is where I'm at. These are some demos that I made. What would you suggest? I mean, just book one time at least and talk to somebody. I mean, it's worth the money for that, you know, just to say like, look, can you look at my stuff? You know, because time is money for everybody. And you could go, oh my God, I could have went on and I'm finding this in my own life too. You know, I could have gone down that rabbit hole, especially now that we're home, of looking at a million videos on different things, let's say. And then hours later, I'm so overwhelmed that I just feel still. It's like paralysis of the mind. You know, you're just like, I don't know where to go. So I have found, go to somebody that you respect, write them and call them, book an appointment with them. And in 1 hour, you'll probably get answers to everything that you were looking for. And isn't that worth your time of, you know, of all of this? And hopefully if they're good and you've already vetted them, obviously look them up, then they'll give you the answers that you're looking for. And then you could decide if you want to study with them and go on from that. So I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go for a few more things. How can you animate your voice for VO self-tapes? Selena, animate your voice. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about that, but if it's for animation, that is what I would do is study animation, you know, or study with a coach. I always say that, but also, you know, they give a lot of descriptions. Casting always gives, I know we did, a lot of descriptions. And sometimes they'll give you a reference video. So if they give you any descriptions or any reference videos, or if you can even ask, then you can go and look it up on YouTube or look up what kind of style, ask questions. You know, this is the same way if you get hired, you guys, as an actor in a film. I don't know about you, but you always have a meeting usually before with director, and they say, this is how I see your character. And they sit down with you and, you know, it's their baby. And you want to make sure that you deliver exactly what they want. So you ask questions. How do you see her? Where did she come from? What was that thing? It's the same thing with voiceover, you know, go and do your digging and go look in history, you know, and your research on things, and then maybe try that voice, and you could pitch it different ways. There's different styles. There's another video I see happening. So we'll put that on later. Well, Lauren Thompson, thank you for tuning in. My pleasure. Okay. So that's it. I am going to do, Mindy, I'm going to do one more question, and this is on mics. Mindy Shaw. Do you suggest any moderate priced mics? I'm about to upgrade. Although this wasn't to me, I think this was to somebody else. Or maybe it was to me. I have a whole other video on mics. And that is it's on my YouTube channel, but I think it's also on Backstage, maybe, or maybe they're different. I don't know. And I go over kind of where to start out with mics and how much. Again, I'm going to say this. It always irritates me when people go out and spend tons of money before they have to. It's not necessary. So why don't you watch that video? I think it might be very helpful. And that is it, I think. Let's see. I love your energy. Well, thank you, Diane. One more. I'll be on lookout for your classes. I get VO auditions for a commercial agent, and I'm always nervous, so I am terrible at tech. Oh, that's so cute. Diane, thank you. Yeah, tech is a whole thing. I've been, you know, I've worked years and years and years with a lot of tech. It is completely a different skill. And you're always looking up words. So I really hope you do that. And it's my pleasure. I hope I gave you some information on this. I hope this video gave you some overall information. I hope I went over everything. I'm a quick talker. You may have to rewatch this. I don't know. But thank you, video. Thank you, Backstage, for having me on here. And thank you all for coming on and live chatting and all your questions and all that stuff. And I am going to do, you know, I'll be back on Backstage probably in a week or two. But in the meantime, you can go to my YouTube channel, and I'll be hopefully, you know, uploading some more videos soon. And I think that's all in the links. And if not, you can get on my website and contact me there. I'm trying to think of how else I can help. I hope that this was helpful for you for the different different branches of voiceover. And I hope that you all follow your dreams and really have fun with this, and just dig in, you know, stay safe, and stay healthy, stay happy, and keep talking. Okay. All right. Bye bye.